Okay, so welcome to Swiftatistics. That is a mouthful. How the Eras Tour inspired a data movement. We are here today to talk a little bit about Taylor Swift. I think like a little bit of a disclaimer. This is supposed to be a fun, entertaining workshop or not even workshop, but like a fun, entertaining moment for all of us. It is a Friday at noon, at least it's a Friday at noon for us. So hopefully you will come on this journey with us. And we will start by introducing myself. So my name is Marcella Sister. I'm a liaison librarian at McGill University, and I'm also the coordinator of the Digital Scholarship Hub. We are doing this in the context of Love Day Week, which ends today. I would say that, I'm on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm at a 7 in terms of how big of a Swiftie I am. I like the music, but I don't know all the music, and especially like the early stuff, I don't know it that well, and I don't know all the songs, but I do like the songs that I know. And I'm really drawn to the business side and to the sort of like the writing process and the way the lyrics come together. So that's sort of like, where am I with that? And in terms of what era am I, because we're going to ask this of you in a little bit. I think I'm a mix of two eras. I think like I'm a Reputation on the outside and a Lover on the inside. Because like I have like a hard exterior, but I'm kind of like a softie on the inside. So that is how I see myself. And now I'm going to let my co-host introduce herself.
Thanks so much, Marcella. So hi, everyone. My name is Emily Kingsland, and I'm a liaison librarian at McGill. My subject specialties are psychology, as well as educational and counseling psychology. Much like Marcella, I feel like I'm a bit later to the Swiftie game. I became a Swiftie when Reputation came out in 2017. So I identify most with the Reputation era. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'm a bit higher than Marcella. I think I'm at an 8. I'm really in it for the music. I'm also in it for the discourse, the pop culture discourse, and the discourse around her feminism as well. So that's where I come from.
Okay, so we are going to ask we're going to do a little poll. Hopefully Zoom will not break on us. But we're going to ask a little bit of a poll on how you rate yourself in your Swiftiness and what era describes you. Hopefully it will work. Emily, can we see the poll? Because I can't see it.
Yep.
Okay, because I can't see it. Okay. It's worrying me. Oh, there we go. Now I can see it.
And there were 13 people in the waiting room, and I'm just admitting them all now.
Perfect. Okay, so let's just welcome to everyone who is joining us right now. We are just asking everyone how big of a Swiftie they are on a scale of from 1 to 10. And then we are also asking what era you think you are. I feel like I'm surprised. A lot of 1989. Reputation is also a big one. Fearless does not get enough love, I guess. Okay. Awesome. So, and I see that most people rate themselves at a 5, which is interesting because, but we have a bit of everything, some 10s. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results so everyone can see them. So yeah, so I see, I think most people rate themselves at a 5. We would need to do a bit more math to know like what people like. If we have more fans or less, less fans or fewer fans. But I see we have someone who is at a 1, and we thank you for being here. And then in terms of the record, the era, I think most people identify them with 1989, followed by
Reputation
Reputation
and
Folklore.
they're tied. Yeah.
Emily, is this you?
I did both. I am
Okay.
one of the Reputation people, but yeah, Reputation and Folklore would be me, I think. Yeah.
Oh, I'd say someone say that they just wandered into the room for the love of Data Week. We love you for that, and we thank you that you're here. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing, and then Emily is gonna lead us into our next section.
Okay. Thanks, Marcella.
And I'll go to the next slide for you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so we're just going to go over our agenda for today. So long story short, this is our agenda. Yeah, so first of all, we're going to get in a little bit to Taylor Swift 101. So a lot of you are identifying yourself on a scale of 0 to 10 as a 5. So after this, we hope we're going to like up your number a little bit. You're going to know a little bit more about Taylor, her backstory, and where she's at. Then we're going to delve into the Eras Tour specifically, and we're going to look at it, all the numbers of the Eras Tour. And then Marcella's going to wrap things up with a really fun fan data projects that have emerged in the past year since the Eras Tour has been with us. Okay, so this is something that we put together courtesy of Google Trends and their Google Trends Index. First of all, Marcella, I've got a question from Annie saying, will you share the presentation? Do you want to just answer that real quick?
Yes, sorry, I was both typing and talking and thinking and trying to undo stuff.
Okay.
Yes. So what we're going to do is after we wrap up today, either today or Monday, I will email everyone who's been here the presentation and the recording.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcella. All right, so this is the Google Trends Index. It goes on a scale from 0 to 100, 100 being like the most searched person, place, thing. So the Google Trends Index, it's the total worldwide searches on Google of anything. And there are simply a few examples that we have shown along this timeline since Lover came out, the album Lover in 2019. These are just a handful of times when Taylor Swift has reached 100. So it's like, she's basically become the most Googled thing on that particular day or that particular time frame. So if you want to walk through it with me, we've got her Lover era when she announces Lover. Then surprise drops Folklore in July of 2020. Then, surprise drops another album, Evermore, in December 2020. Then she started her re-recording process. So for those of you who don't know, she was with a previous company before she switched labels. And so what she has been doing is re-recording her own work so that she can have ownership over them. So when you see TV in brackets, that stands for Taylor's version. So again, with her re-records, she enters back into the discourse. People are Googling her name. So you can see that it starts with her re-release of Fearless, Taylor's version, followed by Red. And then as we move forward, you can see when she announced the Eras Tour and the Eras Tour began, we saw another spike in Googles for Taylor when she attended a football game in September 2023. Not only that, in September 2023, she was really a person of note on Google because Google created a game that challenged fans to unlock the titles from Taylor's re-release of her 1989 album, From the Vault, so vault tracks. So that really increased the amount of people Googling her name. Of course, a huge spike when she announced the Eras Tour movie, which we'll discuss later. And then lastly, she recently attended the Super Bowl, and that's once again, she hit a Google index of 100. So every year, the Google index, it announces who their number 100 person is. And surprise, surprise, in 2023, it was indeed Taylor Swift. So that was based on searches run on Google between October 1st of 2022 and October 1st of 2023. And just to give you a perspective of where other large celebrities and musicians ranked on this Google index. So Taylor was at 100, Beyonce ranked 26, Coldplay 23, Elton John 10, Harry Styles 7, The Weeknd 6, and Ed Sheeran ranked a 5. So this gives you an idea of really almost like the omnipresence of Taylor Swift in the year 2023. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, so when it comes to YouTube, we have a lot of stats and data that we can delve into. First of all, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. So that was her big hit that came off her, I want to say, yeah, 1989 album. It is her most viewed YouTube video of all time with 3.4 billion streams. And second place for her is Blank Space, that also came out from her album 1989, and it's just shy of this. It's at 3.3 billion streams. Both Shake It Off and Blank Space are ranked the 32nd and 33rd most viewed YouTube videos ever, like ever. So she's broken lots of records on YouTube. In 2017, her video for Look What You Made Me Do became the most watched video in a 24-hour period on YouTube. In 2019, her music video for Me, a much maligned song that I know at least one person here likes, Marcella, it became the most streamed video for a female artist and a solo artist in 24 hours. And there are 5 other videos of hers that have billions of streams, and they are, in addition to Shake It Off and Blank Space, they are Bad Blood, featuring Kendrick Lamar, You Belong With Me, and Look What You Made Me Do. Next slides. Okay, so Spotify. So like I said at the beginning of this talk, I only got into Taylor Swift in 2017 when she released Reputation. And a big reason for that is that I personally stream all my music on Spotify. Now, back in 2014, when she released her album 1989, Taylor Swift pulled her entire music catalog from Spotify. And at the time, this was because Spotify was paying their artists between 0.06 US dollars and 0.0084 US dollars per stream. And the only people who really profited from this kind of business model were the people who held the rights of the music. So in this case, it's rarely the artists, it's often their record label, their publisher, or their distributor. And these people received 70% of Spotify's revenue. So in April of 2017, Spotify, as well as Apple Music and a lot of other streamers, changed their policies. And Taylor re-uploaded her entire catalog to Spotify, and then later that year released Reputation. So for myself, that's how I got into her music, is because it was on my streaming platform of choice. So in November of 2023, some of you may have heard, Spotify announced that their artist of the year was Taylor Swift. So that meant that her music was streamed on Spotify more than any other artist that year. She had come really close the previous 2 years. In 2021 and 2022, she came in second, only to Bad Bunny. But in 2023, obviously, that was Taylor's year. Right, next slide. Let's get into her net worth. So again, Taylor became a billionaire in 2023, and this is a rough breakdown of her net worth. This is also, as a side note, a lesson for those of you who are interested in making infographics, that pie charts, circular charts are very hard to make. So what I think is pretty unique about Taylor's earnings is that most of her money comes directly from her music. So unlike other billionaire musicians like Jay-Z or Rihanna, she doesn't have a clothing line, she doesn't have a beauty line, it's mostly coming from her music. So obviously, she's made a lot of money from her ticket sales of the Eras Tour alone, but you can't forget how much money she makes on merchandise. And that's not just merch that she sold at her concerts, but also on her online store. So I'm probably not the only person in this talk today who felt very sorry for themselves when they weren't able to secure tickets to the Eras Tour. And as a way of comforting ourselves, maybe some of us bought merch on her website. I, for one, purchased this Taylor Swift Christmas tree ornament, Reputation era, obviously, for $20 US off of her website. So I'm one of many people who've contributed to her becoming a billionaire. You're welcome, Taylor. When it comes to her properties, this one's very interesting. There's some debate around it. Some places say she owns 5 properties. Others say she owns 8. The reality is that her Manhattan property, she took 3 separate properties and put them all together into one. So that could technically count as 1 or technically count as 3. She also owns 2 properties in Nashville, a condo and an estate. For those of you who are familiar with Taylor's famous 4th of July parties, you'll know that she owns an estate in Rhode Island by the ocean. And then her most recent purchase was of an estate in Beverly Hills. It was owned by the famed Hollywood producer Samuel Goldwyn, and she got permission from the Beverly Hills Cultural Heritage Group to update the house so that it is restored back to its 1934 origins. But you can see the breakdown of her net worth here. So you've got the bulk of it is her music that has been released since 2019. Over half of her worth is just coming from that. We've got ticket sales and merch, royalties from her music sale, her streams on YouTube and Spotify, and of course, her 8 personal properties. Okay, next slide. Okay, so let's delve a little bit into how Taylor has grown as an artist by looking at her albums and her lyrics and how musically she has changed over time. So this chart right here is based on an infographic created by Alice Zhao. She runs a blog called A Dash of Data. And Alice is a data scientist. She's an author and a content creator. And what her blog really aims to do is take the world of analytics and pop culture and merge them together. And Marcella is going to be featuring more work of Alice's later in this presentation. So this particular graphic is looking, like I said, at the evolution of Taylor's sound. So on the left-hand side, we have it can either be musically positive, and we're talking about the lyrics here, whether the lyrics are positive or negative in tone. And then on the bottom, you've got whether her music is more electronic or acoustic. So I think what's interesting to see here is the distribution of her albums. So her first 3 albums you can see are Taylor Swift, like her debut album, which is colored green, Fearless, and Speak Now. So those 3, what we like to call them is kind of her country style songs, and they're mostly positive, as you can see. So they're all kind of clustered together on this graph. The next 2 albums is when she moved more into pop. And so that is Red in 1989. And you can see that not only are they the most electronic because they're pop records, but also they're the most positive. So Red is her most positive musically, lyrically album to date. Next, she gets angry. She's in her Reputation era. So Reputation is second only to Midnights in terms of lyrically her most negative album, but it is also quite electronic as well. Then, of course, she falls in love. And so she creates Lover. And this one is second only to Red in terms of how positive the lyrics are in it. And she brings back a lot more of some of her folksy element as well. So while it maintains an electronic record, it's not nearly as poppy as Red or 1989. Then, of course, we have her 2 peak pandemic albums. And this is where she shifts tonally dramatically. So if you're looking on the far right-hand side of the screen, we're talking about Folklore and Evermore. These were heavily acoustic albums that were also surprisingly, despite a lot of the songs being in minor keys, lyrically quite positive. And then, last but certainly not least, Taylor gets real with Midnights. This is her most musically negative album to date. And also you can see, has gone back into becoming a pop girly once again. So this just gives you a cool way that we can visualize information and data regarding Taylor Swift's music, her lyrics, and the tone. All right, next slide. Okay, so that was Taylor 101. Now we're going to jump into the Eras Tour and the Eras Tour by numbers. Okay, so what kind of data can we collect from the Eras Tour? Let's jump in and see.
Maybe you want people to tell us what they think people are going to collect.
Yes, do you want to manage that, Marcella?
So if you want to share in the chat, what kind of data do you think people have been collecting about the Eras Tour that'd be interesting to see?
Friendship bracelet kit sales. Yes. Surprise songs. So attendance number and economic impact on cities will definitely be something we'll be talking about later in the presentation. The surprise songs, for those who don't know, it's at every Eras Tour concert, Taylor plays 2 songs and she changes them up each time. So it's always a surprise as to which song she's going to play. And she plays one on piano, one on guitar. Earthquakes caused by shaking it off. Yes. So at one of Taylor's concerts, I forget what it's called, the scale, the words that can tell whether there is an earthquake or not. Richter scale, I believe. It made it look as though there was an earthquake and it was just her fans dancing to shake it off. Sequin clothing, boots, other costume clothing items for concert goers. Yeah, so she also changes her outfits. She has like a rotation of outfits for each of her different eras during her concert. And so fans have been tracking that as well. How many Easter eggs she drops in different ways? I mean, that you would really go down a rabbit hole, Marika, for that one. Amount of time singing All Too Well. So Taylor famously re-released her song All Too Well, but an extended 10-minute version, and she sings that entire 10-minute version at the Eras Tour. Demographics of the audience. Yeah, I don't know how much we get into it here, but we do link to a report from Statista at the end of our presentation that does break down racial demographics, gender. However, they only have the male-female binary when it comes to breaking down the gender breakup. There is a breakdown that they have by political affiliation, like US politics, of course. And so a lot of that you can find in the references at the end of this presentation, Hannah. Amount of time for standing problem, standing ovation. Yes. Yeah, it's a really magical performance that she does at the show, and it often garners a standing ovation. I'm just going to scroll through, see if there's any I missed. Taylor's version announcements. Yeah, so we definitely have some of that on the timeline. The Google Trends Index, every time there was a Taylor's version announcement, she would go to 100 on the index. Fuel burn CO2 emissions. Marcella and I debated talking about this during the presentation. Then we're like, it's Friday afternoon and we're trying to be positive. But yeah, there's been a lot of discourse around the amount of travel that Taylor does via private jet, her own private jet, and how much that contributes to CO2 emissions. Marcella?
And I'll add a little bit because it was interesting. We talked about it when we were working on this. And yesterday I was scrolling on TikTok, as one does on a Thursday evening. And actually I found a really good video where a scientist, I can't remember exactly what her specialty was. She's in Australia, but she was talking about how there's all this talk about the private jet. And while, yes, it does have, there are CO2 emissions, she would have to fly her jet for 140,000 years to match the emissions of, for example, a project in mining. And she points to a specific project in Australia. If anyone wants it, when I send the slides, I can also send a link to that video because I thought it was really interesting. So while we just, yeah, and I think we also felt that we didn't know enough about it to be able to address the topic as it should. But in any case, I think we are ready for the next slide.
There was one last one from Emily, the streaming impact on Spotify on days where she has concerts. And definitely, I'm sure, I'm imagining lots of folks will see a spike on those days because they're on TikTok, they see clips. And yes, folks do want the CO2 video, Marcella. Okay. So one of you had mentioned in your questions what you'd like to see is revenue from these tours. Taylor's Eras Tour is the highest grossing tour ever, point finale, in the world. So we're talking 151 sold out stadium shows across 5 continents, running from March of 2023 until it wraps up in Vancouver in December of 2024. So Statista, they estimate that the tour will have earned, currently she's earned $1 billion from the tour. They believe that by the end of the tour, she'll have earned up to $4.5 billion. So this means that it's likely that she will have generated nearly 4 times the total earnings of all of her previous tours combined. So here on the infographic, we can see her previous tours, starting with Fearless, where she made $89.2 million. Next up was Speak Now, where she earned just shy of $160 million. Next was Red. See, she keeps growing, $191.5 million. Then, of course, 1989 was quite huge for her. That's when I think the poll at the start, a lot of you became fans was with 1989, or you would associate yourself more with that album. She jumps up to $309.6 million earned from that tour. Reputation was her last stadium concert tour before the pandemic and before the Eras Tour. So it garnered $440.6 million. I'm trying to remember if this was gross or net. I think this was gross. I see the question in the comments, but I can go back and look at the data from, oh no, this wasn't Statista. This was Polestar and Business Insider. But we've got links to it directly as well. So again, she's currently earned $1 billion from this tour. They're projecting 4.5 billion. All right, next slide. So the movie, so as many of you may know, this was perhaps in an effort to appease those of us who weren't able to buy tickets to the Eras tour. Taylor released a filmed version of her concert, and it was released in October of 2023, and it was magical. Due to a series of events, Marcella and I were unable to watch it on opening weekend. So as much as she and I enjoyed seeing the film in the theater a few weeks later, it wasn't the experience that we thought it might be. I think some of you may have seen or maybe even attended those opening weekends, and you would see people standing and singing along and dancing and dressing up. We did exchange friendship bracelets, though, so we had that experience at least. So this quickly became the highest grossing concert film of all time. The closest film that has come to rival this one is the 2011 masterpiece Justin Bieber, Never Say Never, which earned a paltry 99 million in comparison. In third place, we have Hannah Montana and Miley Cyrus, Best of Both Worlds concert tour that brought in 70.7 million in 2008. One Direction, This Is Us made 68.2 million when it came out in 2013. And finally, in fifth place, we have Katy Perry's Part of Me tour, concert film rather, made 32.7 million in 2012. Okay. So some of you had asked about her audience numbers and how much she has managed to grow her audience. It really is remarkable how much Taylor keeps expanding her fan base. And that's for all of her tours, not just her Eras tour. She has managed to sell 99% to 100% of the available seating for each one of her tours as it has grown with her. So for the Eras tour, there were 2 million tickets that were sold on Ticketmaster on the first day. So that was November 15th of 2022 alone. So this broke the record for the most tickets sold ever by an artist in a single day. So you can see on this chart, she's off the chart. She went from making, or rather having 1.2 million concert attendees at her first tour, Fearless. It went up a little bit to 1.6 million for Speak Now, a little bit higher for Red, 1.7 million. Then again, you see 1989. I believe that's the one where she became a lot more, Red, she was still pretty well known, but 1989, because she really fully crossed over into a pop album, I feel like she became a lot more mainstream. So you see 2.3 million. And then, of course, Reputation was her last tour before Eras. She had 2.9 spectators for that one. Eras is currently projected of having a total of 9.5 million attendees at her actual concerts. Okay, so next up, we have the estimated number of spectators and revenue of her tour, and this is broken down by continents. This data comes from Statista, and it was released, this data was released before she started embarking on her international tour dates, but I would say that it's quite accurate because they assumed correctly that all of her dates would sell out. For Europe, we've kind of got them all together. This includes France, Sweden, Portugal, Austria, Spain, England, Ireland, Netherlands, Germany, Poland, Switzerland, and Scotland. For her US shows, those have already happened. She played a total of 60. Each show averaged 72,000 spectators. And ticket sales, I feel like Taylor's going to love this. Ticket sales for each individual show were roughly $13 million. And as a lot of you know, 13 is her favorite number, her lucky number. Statista has estimated that the European leg of the Eras tour, just the European leg alone, will be the second highest grossing after US and Canada, and that it'll represent about 30% of the overall revenue and audience worldwide. So you can see she has already performed in Mexico, Argentina, and Brazil. So we have the numbers from that. Europe, she has already done Japan, right? And Australia. And is she doing Singapore next, Marcella? I think that's where she's going to be next.
Because she's in Australia right now. I think like
She's
the
there now.
concert started like last night for us, I guess,
Okay.
or this morning for us.
Yeah.
I saw something again on the TikTok.
Yeah.
But yes, I think she's in Australia, and then she does like she
Europe.
finishes up Asia, and then Europe starts maybe around April, if I'm not mistaken.
And
April,
then
May.
she completes it in November and December in Canada for Toronto and Vancouver. So that is kind of your my section of the Eras tour. Now it's over to your Marcella era.
So we'll talk a little bit about the local impact, which is something a lot of you mentioned. And we found in this report, there's this quote from the CEO of Downtown Vancouver, who I don't know what she's speaking about Arizona, but it was a good quote, so we went with it. This is the tour's opening night in Arizona brought in more revenue for local businesses than the Super Bowl, which also is like given a lot of the debate that has happened over the past couple of months over who was more famous, whether it was Taylor Swift or Travis Kelce. I think we now know. But it has been documented that the economic impact, or the positive economic impact for the cities that are hosting a concert is incredible. So we'll talk a little bit about those numbers. So the tour in the US alone is projected to generate $5 billion for local economies. That's a lot of money. The average concert goer is expected to spend about $1,300 US, which is a lot, even more in Canada. The cities that have had concerts have seen peaks in reservations in restaurants and hotels. There's been, how I mentioned, like peaks in sales or spikes in sales of beads and other bracelet making supplies. I know for a fact I'm originally from Argentina, so I followed a lot what was going on in Argentina, and there were a lot of places that were selling out of beads and other supplies to make bracelets. If you don't know, there's fans in Argentina and Brazil. They're hardcore fans. So if someone says let's make bracelets, everyone's going to make bracelets. But we also saw it here as well. And a really interesting thing that I saw, not so much in the US, but I did see in the South American, or the Latin American, not South American, because Mexico is North America. But the Latin American sort of leg of the tour was also how it had fed the informal markets, which are more common in countries in Latin America. So these are, for example, the picture we have here is outside the Foro Sol, which is the one of the venues where she played in Mexico. There was this entire market of unofficial merch, if we could call it that way, but sometimes that looked better than the actual merch or the merch that Taylor sells. And there were stalls after stalls after stalls. I also saw in Buenos Aires, for example, that there were people who had put a stall outside of the stadium where they did people's hair and makeup. So glitter, braids, things like that. On the day in Argentina where it rained a lot, they had people selling rain ponchos. So it has not only fed those more official or formal businesses, but also has really sort of fed the informal markets in some of those countries. And we'll see how it goes in different countries. Different countries have different regulations, and there are different things that people can do or not. But it'd be interesting to see what happens. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in Europe, where there are informal markets that you see for tourists. So it'd be interesting to see what happens once they get there. So now we're going to talk about what, like, really, I think when we were talking about creating this, it's not even a workshop, but like this event that we're having today, it was the fun data projects, because the Eras Tour has created this movement where people want to collect information about the tour and share it. So what we've done today is come up with a few projects that we want to share with you of people, and how, we felt this was a really good topic for this year for Love Data Week, because the topic of the theme of this year's Love Data Week is my kind of data. And if this is not my kind of data, I don't know what is. So we are going to start with the outfits, and someone mentioned it in the comments. So there are a lot of, I've seen a lot of in TikTok. I'm giving like the impression that I spend way too much time on TikTok, which is not untrue, but also I'm not sure it's the type of image I want you to have of me. But there's been a lot of creators who have spent a lot of time tracking what outfit she wears for each concert or for each section of the concert. So I'm going to play you 2 videos. One of them is the, we'll talk about like, I'll do the first one and then I'll do the second. Is it playing?
Not yet. Yeah, the sound's not working.
The sound's not working, right? That's so odd. It's okay. It's not that you need it, but I'll tell you what the video says. Hopefully when you get the link, you'll be able to. I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to link a PDF. I'm going to link the slides so that you can actually see the videos. But this one is what she's just tracking how many times she has worn each bodysuit for the Midnight's era. So that's the first thing she does. And then the second video is from the same person. Hopefully we can see it. If not, I'll tell you what it is and you will have to see it. This is very disappointing, Google Slides. But we'll try. This one is how she does it.
This is my secret for how I know what Taylor Swift has worn every night of the Eras Tour and how I do my data breakdown calculations for what outfit she has worn most often on night 1, night 2, and night 3. I do all of this so you know what to guess when you're doing fantasy Swiftball predictions. This lovely spreadsheet here I found on Twitter just by searching Eras Tour outfits spreadsheet, and somebody had made this already, which I find very helpful and awesome. Before I found this spreadsheet, if I wanted to do this, I'd basically have to search Taylor Swift, Gillette Night 1, Antihero, and find a video on TikTok and see what she was wearing for myself. But because somebody else has been tallying and keeping track of it, I don't have to do that anymore. So I'm going to calculate folklore today. So I'm just scrolling over to the folklore column. We have all of the cities and all of the dates here. I'm just scrolling over to the folklore column, and I'm going to tally how many times she's worn each outfit on each night. Let's start with purple and night 1. I'm going to just count how many times she's worn purple on a night 1. 1, no, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then I'll just update my personal spreadsheet that I made breaking down each outfit by each night and put that folklore night 1, purple has been worn 5 times, and you can ignore these percentages for now. That's from the last time I calculated it. But then essentially I will just tally for each of these boxes and then break down the percentages.
So we have a lot of effort for this. And one other thing that I really love about what we've seen in terms of this sort of like data movement that the Eras Tour has created is the fact that it's not only that people are tallying their own data, is that there is the sort of like collaborative aspect to this. People are sharing spreadsheets like this one. I remember when I made this bracelets when I went to the movie. Emily and I went with my niece, and I wanted my niece to have the experience of having bracelets. And obviously, as an adult, I can make them faster than she could. So I sat one afternoon while I was doing some other stuff, and I did all these bracelets. And at one point, what happens is like you start running out of letters, right? Especially the O's and the A's and E's. Also, I bought mine from Dollarama, so I got like an odd mix of letters. There was a spreadsheet that I found where if you had this letter left over, this is what you could do. So a lot of effort and collaboration has gone on.
This is my secret.
Okay, so next up is this project that I've seen from someone who crochets. So I don't know if people here are familiar with temperature blankets. Temperature blankets are these blankets that are sort of like a mix between arts and crafts and data collection, where you knit a row for each day, and the color corresponds to a certain temperature or the temperature that was in that day. And then at the end of the day, it gives you the blanket gives you an idea of how the temperature has been throughout the year. So someone did it with their surprise songs, and she selected colors for each of the albums, and we're gonna take a look at it. It has no sound. I don't think it has any sound. So if there's no sound, don't worry about it. I think she did. I'll talk. You can see it here. It was the colors that we tend to associate. So black for Reputation, light blue for 1989, purple for Speak Now, green I think it's Debut, blue, dark blue is Midnight, and that. So she's been doing it. She already has a blanket for the US tour, or for the US leg, and now she's doing the international one. She was talking about it the other day. I saw that she's had an issue now because she was using white as a divider, or like a cream as a divider between concerts or between cities in the concert. And the problem right now is that the new album that's coming out in April seems like the color will be white. She was very concerned about it and trying to come up with a color that would work for her. Okay, so I think we're gonna move on to the last of the TikToks, I promise. This is by a user called Live in Progress, and they do all this kind of like data collection for each concert. So they look at, what the surprise songs were, for the surprise songs, if they are a Taylor's version or if they're still, she has not re-recorded them, the number of outfits we've seen per era. We know that, like, for some reason, Reputation only has one suit, and that's all she wears. She does, like, this one is
Marcella, sorry, again, I have to jump in because you know that with Reputation, there will be no explanation. There is just Reputation. So she doesn't have to tell you why she only has one outfit. She just has one outfit. It's also a killer outfit. Okay.
It is.
Sorry, I'm gonna stop now.
It is, and it was actually funny. There was one concert where it was very clear that, like, it had ripped a little bit, and, like, we were all kind of concerned, like, if they're gonna fix it or not. He also does. This person also does. How many for each album? How many things have been sung? How many songs have yet to be sung? There's a lot of, like, research that this person does, and actually, this was sort of like a slideshow that she did again on TikTok. And I only took a few because obviously we had limited space, but I'm amazed because these visualizations are gorgeous. They're really nice looking. So it's not only that we have people who are, like, doing, like, data analysis, but also they're, like, doing some really visually stunning data visualizations. Like, I wish I could do, like, visualizations that look like this and not my wonky Excel charts. Next up, we're going to look, and for this one, we're going to leave the presentation and we're just going to go to Dash of Data, which is this blog that Emily mentioned. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to Alice, who is the person who writes this blog, because the metadata was so good that when I had to cite it, I did not have to do anything. It was just, like, perfect. So we'll give her that. But she's done a few posts. It's not only about Taylor Swift, but as Emily mentioned, there's a lot about pop culture. But just looking at some of the posts she's done, we have all these different questions and all this different information that is being tallied about Taylor Swift. So we have colors, we have the swear words that Taylor uses, the last line, and sort of like what the last line tells you in terms of the mood or like what are we seeing in terms of, like, an overarching story that's being told. So, like I said, she is a mastermind. Alice too. And if you are interested, so we link to everything on the slides, and she also has a really good video on these visualizations, so to learn more of how they're done and, like, what she's showing. And again, this is a labor of love because there's no reason for her to do this, so except that she likes data and she wants to do it. And then I'm gonna move it like this. And I'll tell you a little bit story about this one, just because like I find it very cute, which is Taylor Swift by keyword. This has to be a pretty old, because this is on Tumblr, so it has to be quite old. Let's see if there's any dates. But this is someone who has taken Taylor Swift's entire discography, and I don't know if it's a she, I'm sorry. They have created this master list of keywords in the song. So you can search by keyword, but you can also search by theme. So for example, the reason I find this very cute is, and how I found this website is, I was having a sleepover with my niece. As you can tell, she's 8. She really likes Taylor Swift. And she wanted to talk about Taylor Swift, and eventually you run out of topics to talk about Taylor Swift. We have looked at like, oh, like can we find a song with each letter? Eventually run out. So we started looking for, I wonder I think we were talking about either colors or months that were featured in songs, and we found this website. So for example, if you click on colors, you'll see every mention of colors in Taylor Swift songs. This was also really useful for Emily and I when we were choosing the headings for the slides today. We do love puns. We're very, very big fans of puns. So it was a great way to find things to find lyrics that we wanted to use. And again, labor of love, you can make a request. So if there's something that isn't there that you'd like to see, you can make a request. So again, labor of love. There's no reason for this person to do this. And I love that collaborative aspect that we're seeing, where people can submit requests and this other person will do it. But people are sharing their data, they're sharing their spreadsheets. And we will end with what I found. Again, another. I'm so sorry. This is not making me look good. But look, before you judge, it is winter in Montreal. It is cold outside. It's not nice to be outside. So we go out to do something. So I'm going to share this, which is I don't know. It's from ABC News Australia, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure where this was collected. I don't know if it was like a conference, a congress, or something like that. But these are all studies that were inspired by Taylor Swift. So I'll hopefully this one will work.
My paper's called Take Me Back to 1989.
My Pennies Made Your Crown, Taylor Swift as Your Billionaire Best Friend.
Vibing with Karma looks at the influence of Buddhism within popular culture, but particularly within Taylor Swift's songs.
My paper was titled Dear Reader, an investigation of Taylor Swift's influence on the book publishing industry.
Taylor Swift's catalogue and all of her kind of Easter eggs that she creates, and how there's this kind of queer underpinning in a lot of the work that she creates, but how this is kind of utilised for capitalistic means.
My paper is Taylor Sheesh versus Taylor Shet.
I have presented a paper called Provocatively From Aryan Goddess to Eulogy to Deceased Legs, How Alt-Right Worshipped and Despised Taylor Swift.
I'm looking at training mental health workers using Taylor Swift's lyrics.
We were exploring the non-economic legacies that mega events have on cities.
Millennials being a really nostalgic generation, and how Taylor Swift uses that in basically all of her creative practice, but in specifically for 1989 and the specific nostalgia her fans have for 1989.
My paper is called Invisible Strings, the Contemporary Archaeology of Taylor Swift.
So I compared the mechanisms of that feud with also what was going on in the media with Donald Trump and the sexism and the snake narratives of Medusa and how we take down women.
My paper basically explores the way that Taylor presents herself as a friend to her fans while also asking them to spend a lot of money on her. And I kind of look at how fans negotiate that relationship of consumption and fandom.
So I love that. I love that video. It's like, first of all, it just came at the right time and the right moment. I think I saw it 2 days ago and I was like, oh my God. But also, as we talk about my kind of data and what kind of data we can collect and what kind of data we want to interact with, there's so many, I think it really shows that there's so many things in our daily lives and of the things that we love that, can be a study, we can take inspiration from our regular lives to create scholarship. So I think that is
My paper's called Take Me Back to Night.
That's not it. That is all for us. We don't know if we have any questions that we can answer, but if we have questions you want to ask us, we are happy to answer them. I'm just gonna stop the recording. So thank you to everyone who is watching us on YouTube. I will stop the recording in a second.